It's time to build momentum, to interrupt and end race-based hatred and violence.
Hey everybody, Tracy Brown here, and I am so happy that you are here with me for this episode of Momentum, where we come together during this series to stop for just 10 or 15 minutes and think about what's something I could do to build momentum to interrupt or end race-based hatred and violence. If this is your first time, you can find out more about the work and the conversations that are happening at the What Is Mine to Do Facebook group, or you can check me out at tracybrown.com and look at the work that I do in all areas of inclusion and communication and leadership. But for Momentum, we do focus specifically on race-based initiatives, race-based challenges, because it is one of the most difficult topics under the umbrella of all the ways we are different from one another. It's one of the most difficult ones for most of us to deal with. Now, in the Momentum series, it is focused on one tip, one idea, one technique, one theme to just think about for the coming week and what you personally can do. What is something you can be thinking about and that you can incorporate into the way you engage with the people you talk to, the people you work with, the people you come into contact with, wherever you go in the world. So let's build some momentum. You may have noticed that the hashtag for our theme tonight is hashtag both not half. Did I say that right? Both not half. Yes. So I had to think about that because it's not my hashtag, even though I'm going to use it a lot. It is a hashtag that was that started with someone with their TED Talk, and I will put a link to his TED Talk in the comments. So maybe you want to go watch it as well. But this idea that people we know, people we work with, people we interact with who have a multiracial or multi-ethnic background, that they have to choose one or the other, right? When in reality, in the way that they've been raised, in the way that they engage in the world, they're not one or the other, right? They are both. And that's who they are. And that's their identity. And so when we are talking about ending race-based violence or hatred, and it shows up in the ways that we have our conversations, right? Or that the way people around us are talking. So if you have someone who one parent is Anglo or white and one parent is Jamaican or African American, and people see them as a black person and say, well, you must be black. And then they see the parent, and it's like, why do we make our children or our young adults or even adults to feel like, well, you look black, so you must be black, or you look black, so strangers treat you however they think black people should be treated, often the negative ways and the negative stereotypes, even though there is a parent who is white or Asian or some other race or ethnic identity group. The TEDx video that I will link to is someone who is white and Asian, but is perceived as white. And so, how that shows up. It's a very interesting video, but for momentum, we try to keep it very, very short. So, I will put a link in and I encourage you to watch it. But the real thing I want you to think about today is how often do you make assumptions based on the way someone looks? And then, based on how they look to you, because to them they look, normal, or to them they look the way they look. But when you are making up a story and have some assumptions about who they are, what their background is, what their family looks like, because you're just engaging with that one person at that time, and how do the stories that are in your head about different racial or ethnic identity groups play out? So that's really kind of it today. I want you to think about, when have you pushed people or assumed people were one particular racial identity group, and then maybe later you found out that they were a member of a different group, or that they were of mixed heritage and mixed culture, because it's not just race or ethnicity, right? It also depends on culturally how you may have integrated the food or the clothing or the slang or the language or the idioms or the cultural norms or the religious norms. All of those things are affected by our racial and ethnic identity. And when we meet or engage with people who have multiple racial and ethnic identities as an active part of their daily lives, then we expect them to be predictable to what we think they are, without being curious about how they have combined all of those different cultures. Now, it's really easy if we look at either Barack Obama or Kamala Harris and just think about how quickly the masses of people were to simply label them as Black, when both of them, each one of them, right, both of them are from mixed culture, mixed heritage, mixed racial ethnic identity. But because they are seen as Black, then Barack Obama became the first Black president of the US, which always confused me, because he not only was his mother white, but he was raised by his white grandparents. And so it's hard to, and then he was raised in Hawaii. So it's like he's got that whole cultural identity woven into the way that his worldview was shaped. And yes, after graduating from an Ivy League, yes, he got very involved in the Black community. Yes, he married a Black woman. Yes, and he's all of that. He's both, not half. And the same thing happened in the most recent presidential campaigns and elections, with Kamala Harris being viewed as Black, when her Asian heritage has always been a huge part of who she is, how she identifies, her life and her family members and her cultural background. So those are two very vivid, very obvious, very low-hanging fruit to use as examples. But I'm going to challenge you to look around your own life and the people you know. And I bet there are people who are members of your local community, your neighborhood, who you know. There are probably, like you, like me, probably have members of your church or spiritual community who you know are multiracial, biracial, or multiracial. We all know people. And so in the next week, be a little more attentive to that. Be more attentive and curious about that. And start to wonder, at least, what is it that I don't know? And what assumptions am I making? So I want to close today with um, what you don't want to say and what you don't want to do or continue to do. So I would suggest that you'll be much more respectful if you don't call them mixed, as if mixed is a noun. You might say they are of mixed heritage. You might say they are. I tend to use multiracial or mixed racial heritage or mixed racial background or multiracial background. And probably I use that more than mixed because it's kind of hard sometimes in our minds to not stop at mixed. So for me, usually, more often than not, I will say someone it has a multiracial or multi-ethnic background or multiracial, multi-ethnic heritage or so play with your language so that you're comfortable. But please do not say, oh yeah, I know Tracy, she's mixed. Yeah, please don't say that anymore. Um, don't use it. It's people first language. She is a person who is whose parents came from different racial cultural backgrounds, right? She is a person who is multiracial or biracial, if you know that it's two and you are clear about that. So anyway, that's the tip for this week. That's the theme for this week. I'm going to be thinking about this. I want to thank the Diversity Ministry of the Diversity Circle from Oakland Center for Spiritual Living because last week they had really, really fabulous 2 hour program and conversation featuring the voices of a variety of people. And it just brought to mind for me, this is a topic that we don't talk about enough. So I'm talking about it today. I'm encouraging you to think about it and talk about it with the people you know. And of course, I want you to come back next week for Momentum at 8 p.m. Central Time, and we'll come up with another topic, another theme, a tip, or a technique that you can be mindful about if you want to be one of the people who helps to interrupt and end race based hatred and violence. Bye for now.